Hello, and welcome to My Dad Listens to This Quarantine Edition with partial reopening. I am Juliet the daughter.
That must make me Kevin the dad.
And today we're doing what we talked about last week. We're doing our Little Richard tribute episode. So, Dad, take it away.
Okay, Richard Penniman was born December 5th, 1932 in Macon, Georgia, the third of 12 children.
Oof, Mamma Mia.
I guess they didn't have a TV. He was nicknamed Little Richard by his family due to being small.
Oh.
His family was very religious and he was heavily influenced by gospel singers as a child. He learned to play alto sax in the 5th grade in his school's marching band.
Oh, so is it him playing sax on his album or is it somebody else? Okay, it's someone else.
Yeah. In October 1947, one of his idols, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, heard Richard singing some of her songs and invited him to open for her at the Macon Civic Auditorium.
Oh.
She paid him after the show, and that did it for him. He wanted to be a professional musician. He said he was inspired to play piano after hearing Ike Turner's piano intro on the song Rocket 88, one of the first songs usually cited as the first rock and roll record.
Oh, no. Oh, let's not talk about Ike Turner. That's just going to get the... Ugh.
We'll save that for our Best of Ike and Tina Turner podcast someday. In 1949, Little Richard left home and became a member of Dr. Hudson's medical show, performing R&B tunes, also known as the Devil's Music.
I'm sorry, but Dr. Hudson's medical show?
Yeah.
Why was it called that? Was he a doctor?
Oh, it was probably some snake oil salesman. Hey, buy my bottle of this and you'll be cured. And we've got this guy who's going to entertain you. Yeah, okay. It was just kind of like a traveling vaudeville show.
Okay. Yeah.
He also performed in drag as Princess Lavon.
Oh my God, are there photos of that?
I don't know. They could be out there somewhere. I really don't know. He hit the minstrel show circuit. Let's try and say that 3 times fast, and performed for vaudeville acts. He moved to Atlanta and started listening to a lot of R&B, checking out performers such as Roy Brown and Billy Wright, the latter being an influence on Richard's showmanship. Wright was impressed by Richard's voice and was able to get Richard to make some recordings backed by Wright's band. This led to a contract with RCA, but his songs went nowhere.
Oh.
Around this time, he met Escarita, a black gay piano player who heavily influenced Richard's playing and stage performance. He then signed to the Peacock label with the same result. Nothing happened.
Is that any relation to NBC or...?
I don't think so.
Okay.
This led to Richard struggling with poverty and working as a dishwasher at a Greyhound bus station to survive. In 1955, singer Lloyd Price told Little Richard to send a demo to Price's label, Specialty Records. Months passed, but Richard got a call from owner Art Roop, or Rupee, who loaned... Well, it's R-U-P-E, so I don't know if it's Roop or Rupee.
It might be Roop. I've seen that before in Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Okay, who loaned money to Richard to buy out his Peacock contract. Roop teamed him up with producer Robert Bumps Blackwell, who thought Richard would be the answer to Ray Charles. But Richard said he liked Fats Domino better, so he was sent to Domino's studio in New Orleans. His initial recordings went nowhere, but Blackwell said he heard Richard launch into a dirty blues called Tutti-Frutti, and he knew that was it. He hired Dorothy Labostri to clean up some of the lyrics. The song was recorded in 3 takes. That was back then where you didn't have multi-tracking. It was like...
Or editing, yeah.
Everyone had to be on it. Anyway, it went to number 2 on the R&B charts and crossed over onto the U.S. and British pop charts.
Oh, cool.
Number 21 here and number 29 over there. It sold 1 million copies.
Nice.
Long Tall Sally came out next and did even better on all the charts and sold 1 million copies also. Little Richard hit the road with his band, The Upsetters, and he is looked on as one of the early artists to break the color barrier, having integrated shows. Chuck Berry was the same way. They just... thought, black and white audiences, we can do this, and they did it.
Yeah.
In 1956, he released 7 singles, 5 of them also charting in the UK.
Whoa.
He starred in 3 rock and roll films, the most famous being The Girl Can't Help It.
I've heard of that one.
Around this time, Pat Boone recorded Tutti-Frutti, and it did better than Little Richard's original.
God damn you, Pat Boone.
W-T...
F.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
His first album, Here's Little Richard, came out in 1957. His second, Little Richard, came out in 1958. In October of 1957, he went to Australia on a package tour with Gene Vincent and Eddie Cochran.
Oh,
During
cool.
the flight, there was engine trouble,
Uh-oh.
and Richard felt that angels were holding up the plane for it to land safely. In the middle of the tour, he announced he was leaving the rock and roll life. And seeing a blazing fireball in the sky in Sydney was another sign from God, and that was his incident where he took all his jewelry and threw it out into the ocean.
Oh, no, that's not a good idea.
Even though it was pointed out later that this was the satellite Sputnik.
Oh, no.
Richard came back to the States and enrolled in Oakwood College in Huntsville, Alabama to major in theology. Richard did admit that part of the reason was monetary. He found out Specialty was cutting back on its royalty rate.
Oh, screw that.
Now, Richard ended his contract with Specialty by agreeing to relinquish any royalties for his material.
No. Oh, nuts.
We'll get back to that a little later. At this time, he made some gospel records. But in 1962, concert promoter Don Arden, father of Sharon Osbourne,
Oh, did not know that.
convinced Little Richard to tour England with Sam Cooke opening. There was one night that Sam Cooke was too sick, he wasn't able to perform, and Little Richard thought it was a gospel tour. When he performed his gospel tunes on stage, he was met with boos. The next night, he watched Sam Cooke on stage, and the competitive juices came back.
Oh.
So Richard and one of his band members, one Billy Preston,
No shit, that's where you got started?
uh-huh,
Wow. Cool.
they did a little warm-up before launching into Long Tall Sally, and the place went nuts.
Now, what did Cook do? Did it
Sam
say?
Cooke?
Yeah. What songs did he do?
It didn't say, but I imagine at that time he had crossed over from gospel to popular music.
Okay.
So it was probably like, working on the Chain Gang, Cupid, You Send Me, his big
And
hits.
Little Richard's just watching in the wings, foaming at the mouth, getting angrier and angrier, like, God damn it.
Yeah. Let's see. So, yeah, the place went nuts. Brian Epstein saw the show and asked Arden if his new band, the Beatles, could open up for some of Richard's shows.
Oh, yeah, and they were like so
They
stoked.
did. Little Richard taught the boys how to perform his songs and taught Paul McCartney his distinctive vocal techniques.
Oh, that makes
He
yeah.
did a good job, by the
Yeah,
way.
well, yeah, I think so anyway.
In 1963, Don Arden asked Little Richard to come out again to save a sagging tour that had the Everly Brothers, Bo Diddley, and a new band called the Rolling Stones.
I've heard about this tour before. Didn't we talk about that in our Bo Diddley episode?
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
suppose this was the same one. Mick Jagger heard about the audience's reaction to Little Richard's shows, but he thought it was BS until he saw it happen right in front of him.
Yeah, so who's a believer now?
Yeah. In 1964, Little Richard was back in rock and roll and released Bam-A-Lama Bam-A-Loo, but due to the British invasion, musical tastes were changing, and the song did not do well in the U.S., but it did go top 20 in the U.K. Also, Little Richard had a new guitarist in his band, the Upsetters, one James Marshall Hendricks.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. So where did it start?
Yeah, Jimmy had a habit of being late to shows, and that got him fired.
Well,
Now,
yeah.
in 1966, they did meet again socially, and things were going well until they got into an argument about $50 that Richard supposedly owed Jimmy.
Oh, no.
Little Richard denied it, but to keep the peace, he paid Jimmy the money just to end the argument.
Oh, that's nice. It's like, all right, just shut up and take my
And
money.
it's funny, I think it was last year when they were doing rock and roll documentaries at Seekonk Library. They showed the Jimi Hendrix one that came out in 1973, and one of the people that they interviewed was Little Richard.
Was he still mad?
No, but he was like, I helped him get his start. If it wasn't for me, that boy wouldn't be anywhere.
Well, I mean, I could kind of see it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, from that point, Little Richard bounced around different labels, toured, and stole the show at 2 different music festivals. At the Atlantic City Pop Festival, he stole the show from headliner Janis Joplin, and at the Toronto Pop Festival, he stole it from headliner John Lennon.
Oh, well, I'm sure John Lennon didn't mind. He was probably like, yeah, it's Little Richard. I mean, come on.
Richard was also hitting the talk show circuit a lot,
Yeah.
which
I've
was
seen some
kind of
episodes.
responsible for not so much his comeback, but keeping his name out there.
Yeah.
And supposedly, I haven't found this yet. I got to do some research on YouTube. But supposedly there was an episode of the Dick Cavett show that he was on.
Ooh.
And there was this critic, I think his name was John Simon, he was talking about art. And you can see Little Richard just sitting there, like seething, not saying nothing. And then finally he just exploded about, I am an artist. And he just went nuts, and everyone else is just like shrinking back.
You know, Dick Cavett has a YouTube channel now, and they release stuff every now and then, so I wouldn't be surprised if they released this after him passing away.
Now, I remember as a kid seeing him on Merv Griffin, having no idea who this loud, flashy, crazy guy was. It was just like, he's loud, he's talking a lot, and he's dressed up like a rainbow.
Uncomfortable white man, huh?
And I was a kid.
No, I'm Merv Griffin.
Oh, no, I think Merv probably was fine with it, but it was just...
Oh, you mean you? You were like, who is this guy?
Yeah, who is this guy? What's he all... I had no idea. Okay. Now, in the 70s, he hit the rock and roll revival circuit. And in 1977, he went back to the church once again after years of drug abuse, partying, addiction, and sexy times.
Is that why he looked so different when he got older?
He could be. He went through a lot.
Went through the mill, yeah.
Yeah, I did some research on his sexy times, which I will spare the audience of, but it was very...
It was a lot.
Eye-opening. I will just say the man liked to watch, and I will leave it there. In 1980...
Oh, okay.
In 1984, he filed a suit against Specialty Records for not paying royalties, even though years ago he had agreed
to it.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
But the suit was settled out of court. Also around this time, Michael Jackson allegedly gave Little Richard monetary compensation for his work when Michael owned both Little Richard's and the Beatles catalogs.
Oh, yeah.
So good on him for doing that. In 1985, his authorized biography, Quasar of Rock, The Life and Times of Little Richard, came out and brought him back into the spotlight. In 1986, he played record producer Orvis Goodnight in the movie Down and Out Beverly Hills, and he closed the movie with the song Great Gosh Almighty, which he wrote with Billy Preston. Ooh. I think I saw that movie about 2 or 3 times, and he just stole the movie with that performance at the very end. It was just a weird way to end the movie, but he was great.
Who else was in it?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. Bette Midler, Nick Nolte. What's her name? Tracy Nelson, Rick Nelson's daughter.
Yeah.
Some other people I can't remember.
Gotcha.
And Little Richard. Mm-hmm. He released a children's album in 1994 after he did the Itsy Bitsy Spider for a Disney record for to raise money for I can't get this right, but it was to raise money for AIDS care for children who were born with AIDS as a result from... Yeah,
the AIDS epidemic. We talked about that with the kid Ryan White from Kokomo, Indiana.
Yeah.
But his case was different. He wasn't born with it. Just so you know. Anyway.
And his children's album was called Shake It All About. And he spent a lot of the 2000s touring despite hip surgery.
Oh, wow.
And in 1996, he did a duet with your man... Jerry Lee Lewis, covering the Beatles. I saw her standing there.
That must have kicked ass.
On Lewis's album, Last Man Standing, which was basically Jerry Lee doing all these old rock and roll songs, but teaming up with different performers. Like he teamed up with Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, and they did the song Rock and Roll, and he did an unbelievable job.
Jerry Lee is still out there in the New Orleans swamp with his cousin, just clinging on for dear life, because heaven and hell don't want him. Oh, God. He's like my biggest fear, that just like one day somehow I'll run into his crusty old lecherous body, and I'll just run. Ah! Oh,
well, if the Warwick Musical Theater was still around, you'd have a pretty good shot, but...
Oh, he used to come there?
Yeah, and that was one of those where, I should have gone to see him.
Oh, you didn't go?
Didn't go. Because I always figured, these guys are going to be around, this theater's always going to be around, and they close the theater, and a lot of guys end up dying. Anyway, back to Little Richard. But first, the Jerry Lee Lewis aside. I imagine someday we'll probably do a Jerry Lee podcast.
Mm-hmm. When he kicks it, but that might be a while. Considering he's held on for so long, you know?
Yeah.
And wasn't he the youngest out of all of them?
I think he may have been, but still, I mean, lifestyle probably has something to do with that too. Anyway, in 2013, Little Richard retired from performing, and he He died on May 9th, 2020 of bone cancer after a 2-month illness. But prior to that, he had the hip surgery, and that kind of helped for a little bit, but he just was just breaking down physically, and towards the end he was just in a wheelchair. He would like make TV performances, not really performing, but just to talk about whatever. I mean, basically it was just to talk about his rock and roll history.
Oh, poor guy.
Now, the album we have is called 18 Greatest Hits, and this collection came out on Rhino Records in 1985. This was back when, before Atlantic Records bought them out to be to be Atlantic's archiver, basically.
Oh, okay.
I picked it up a few years later, probably 88 or 89, back in my Blue Cross days, when I'd be able to spend my lunchtime at Strawberry's Records and Tapes in downtown Providence because they were only about 3 blocks away from the building that I worked at.
Oh, nice.
Now, the music was digitally transferred from the original master tapes by Bill Inglot, who did his usual great job, which I bring that up because in 1985, record companies were just like vomiting out their musical catalogs onto CD without any
restoration?
Any care or restoration. It was like, let's just get this product out and make monies as fast as we can.
Well, that sucks.
Where Rhino was at that time probably one of the few, or maybe the only, who thought, hey, let's do a good job of this and let's hire people who know what they're doing and let's track down the original sources.
Gosh, maybe people will like it more.
So back then, if you saw Bill Inglot's name on a CD, you knew you were going to get a great sounding disc. And I gotta say, I don't know if you went through the booklet.
No, I didn't.
It's probably for the best because Don Waller's liner notes are atrocious.
Ooh.
It's basically 6 pages of him trying to sound like Little Richard on paper, and it's really annoying because you'd want to get like the information, and it is in there somewhere, but it's just like really noisy.
You have to sift through a bunch of shit in order to get the information.
and the font. The fonts don't help. It's like, I think they're also trying to use the fonts to put across the screaming, but it really, it's hard on the eye and it doesn't help.
Yeah, it probably doesn't read well at all.
Now, other collections have come out since this one, obviously, with better liner notes and more songs, but I've just always stuck with this one and I always will. It's just a really tight collection. I've seen other ones where it's like, yeah, they've got a few more songs, but they've kind of like not really famous. And it's
more obscure stuff?
I guess. I mean, I don't have anything against them, but this is the first one that, this is the one I bought, and this is the one I'm always going to stick with. I have no problem with it at all. Now, so this is 18 songs in 43 minutes, and the longest song length is 2 minutes and 33 seconds.
That's the longest?
Now that is rock and roll. Say what you want. Get in and out fast and make sure people can dance to it.
Yeah, like when we did our Buddy Holly episode. Now, when did you get into Little Richard? Do you remember how, or?
No, it was just like, okay, like when I was going through I have to know everything I need to know about music. I need to start at the beginning. I've heard of Little Richard. Okay, he's supposed to be really good. I will just buy this. Not having heard any of this, well, I probably heard like remakes of the songs because he ended up doing that. No.
Oh.
He ended up re-recording his hits in like the 60s and possibly 70s.
Oh.
But these are the originals. They've never been topped. They never will be. So let's get into it.
All right, let's do it.
You go first.
First song, Tutti-Frutti. Now, if you don't think this song is fun, you are either dumb or dead. This is an example of how nonsense lyrics work so perfectly because they are upbeat and fun. The arrangement of the instruments works as well, especially with the saxophone solo, which is guaranteed to put a smile on your face. And as for Little Richard, boy, he could scream. But it sounds like he knows how to scream to his advantage. Not necessarily in the sense that it's healthy for the voice, but he knows when it's best to go for the high note and when it's not. Still, it doesn't sound like he's killing himself vocally either. Now, the first time I ever remember hearing this song was in Disney's The Brave Little Toaster, when all the household appliances are cleaning the house. However, Disney was very clever, cutting out any mention of Little Richard seeing 2 girls at the same time. They only kept in the fun stuff that the kids could listen to. But I don't mind, oddly enough, the part about Little Richard seeing 2 girls at the same time because it's Little Richard. I mean, come on, I bet women fell at his feet, and I want to read that Wikipedia page now, but I'm kind of scared too. And because Little Richard is having so much fun, you can't help but become infected by his exuberance, and you're like, you go for it, man. And in the context of the song, it makes sense. He has Daisy who drives him crazy, and Sue who knows just what to do, so it's a healthy balance. Although I don't know how any girl would know what to do with Little Richard, since he's so joyfully frenetic, I'd probably have to stop and catch my breath for a good minute. Just be like, 1 minute, I gotta breathe. Oh my god.
Okay. Now, I cannot do this phrase justice, the same justice that Little Richard always did.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read it out.
Okay. This sounds lame already.
Yeah, it is. It's basically a wop, bop, loo, bop, lop, bam, boom.
Yeah, people were tweeting that when he died. I was one of them.
To me, that is the shot heard around the world.
Yeah.
Because there's life before that phrase and life after that phrase. And, call me like blasphemous, but to me, that's the start of rock and roll. I mean, I know there were songs that were like before that, which, have been always cited, but to me, it's just that phrase is only something I think you would get in rock and roll. And like the original phrase, was Tutti Frutti or Rudy. The original was Tutti Frutti, good booty.
I like that one too.
Oh my!
You could release that one now, and
you could, but or Rudy. I mean, it's more like I wonder what that means. It could mean anything.
Yeah.
Okay, now like you said, Sue, she knows what to do. Daisy drives him crazy, and like the sound is so dense, you fall into it and you cannot get out. And who'd want to?
Yeah, I don't want to.
Little Richard lets loose with his woos, which have been copied by everyone from Paul McCartney to Prince. And if Richard could have copyrighted that scream, he'd have been a zillionaire. And the one, I remember reading this somewhere about the band, like they're saying like, oh, those guys, they were just so out of control. They couldn't keep up with him and what have you. But
sounds like
I think
they
if you listen, I mean, you don't have to listen too hard either.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they know what they were doing. He knew what he was doing. And it's kind of like controlled chaos, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
And, to me, this is like the first real rock and roll song. I mean, it's just so, out of control and just so manic. And yeah, he knows how to use his voice.
Yes.
I think of because the people that were his influences and that he definitely studied. It's just perfect.
What more is there to say? Yeah. All right, next song, Long Tall Sally. Now, I know the Beatles covered this since they worshipped Little Richard.
Everyone covered this.
Well, Paul especially worshipped Little Richard. I haven't heard that one, though, so let's start with the original first. I don't have too much to say about the singing or instruments since Little Richard uses the same formula, upbeat instruments and a voice to match. However, I do want to talk about the story of the song. So Little Richard knows his Uncle John is cheating on Aunt Mary with Long Tall Sally, and he's gonna snitch. Now, here's what I want to know. If you know a family member of yours is cheating, what do you do in the scenario where the family member is technically an adult superior? If I was him, I probably would have told one of my parents. That way they could tell Aunt Mary, because that would probably carry a bit more weight.
Yeah, but you're assuming that Little Richard's a kid at the time.
Yeah, since he's an adult, he could probably,
well, yeah.
doesn't care, yeah. But before he could tell, Aunt Mary finds out anyway, and boy, is she ready to fight. And as for the bald-headed line, the innocent part of me thinks Aunt Mary ripped Sally hairs out the first time, and the second time she's gonna do worse. What I want to know, though, is Little Richard having fun because he's enjoying the drama of it all, or because he's grateful he's not his uncle and has a loyal girl? It'll definitely be interesting to hear how the Beatles interpreted this one for sure.
Oh, yeah, Long Tall Sally, she's built for speed, got everything that Uncle John needs, and Aunt Mary ain't liking that.
Nope.
And the one thing, and let me run this by you, because I from doing the research, this kind of hit me for the first time about bald-head Sally, and I thought, drag queen? Like Sally's wearing a wig, and oh my God, Sally was really Sal. Who knows?
That I could buy that. I could buy that theory. That could work.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one thing that surprised me about this song and the other songs, I remember listening the first time, I'm like, boy, they all have sax solos. As opposed to not Little Richard getting the solo. I mean, you can still hear him pounding away at the keys.
Yes.
Well, at that time, the sax was the prominent instrument.
Yeah.
Guitar eventually made its way. I don't know if Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry might have had something to do with that, but
Yeah. We'll talk about that with one of the later songs.
yeah. But yeah, you can still hear him pounding away on the keys.
Yeah.
And now Creedence Clearwater Revival's version of this was called Traveling Band. And Little Richard could have easily sued for the songwriting credit because it's the same music. It's just different words. Yep, same down arrangement. I'm surprised you never heard the Beatles version.
I probably have, but I just don't remember it.
I mean, it's on my iTunes. I mean, you can get it right on the computer because they've got the whole catalog.
Which album is it from?
I knew you were going to ask that. I want to say it's probably their second album. With the Beatles.
With the Beatles, yes. Thank you.
If not, check
Beatles for Sale?
No, check Past Masters because I'm not sure if they wound up releasing that as a 45 instead of putting it on an album.
Okay.
But I mean, they do a good job, and Paul is just he's one of the great, if not greatest, Little Richard vocal impersonator.
Okay. And Prince
which is frustrating because it's like it proves he could have when he wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't know if he could do it nowadays, but
no, we heard him sing "Maybe I'm Amazed" on SNL. He can't do it anymore.
Now, what were you going to say about Prince?
Oh, and Prince is the best dressed Little Richard impersonator.
Oh yeah, he had the thin mustache, the hair going, the crazy clothes. Oh yeah.
Who was Little Richard's wardrobe person? Do you know anything about that? Like, who picked the clothes for him? Like, was it him?
Did not say. I imagine it would have been himself.
Okay.
Ain't no one gonna tell him what to wear.
No. Next song, Slippin' and Slidin'. Okay, now this time we really hear the honky-tonk piano, as if we didn't before, but we really hear it. And I could see in my head Little Richard pounding away and standing up, kicking the bench away. I think what I love about the song is that even though he found out his girlfriend was sneaking around, he does not sound mad. He's already over and saying, good riddance, laughing all the way, because of course he can find another girl. I can just picture him flipping the bird at her while walking away with a toothy grin like, la la la. Honey, you lost him, and he's not coming back.
Oh, yeah, because he's like, I won't be your fool no more. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Bye-bye.
And, yeah, he's been 2 times. He ain't standing for it. And he's got a crack band backing him up, which consisted mostly of guys who played on Fats Domino stuff because he recorded in that studio. And including the great Earl Palmer on the drums. And I just like the drum sound. I mean, he always does something different with each song. But yeah, I mean, the piano was definitely in the forefront in this song.
Yes.
And I just like, slipping and sliding, peeping and hiding, won't be a fool no more. I've been told, and you've been bold, and won't be a fool no more. And these songs are like, they're so simple lyrically, but I mean, he just brings it home.
Kicked it out of the park.
Yeah, he does. One thing when you say about kicking the piano stool.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, he doesn't have a stool in the first place. He just played standing up.
Well, I heard that,
Jerry Lee would do that.
Yeah, but I guess there was a biography that I read when I was a kid about the Beatles, and they mentioned their influences, with Little Richard. If they gave him a piano bench, he would stand up and kick it away. Mm-hmm. He would sit there for a while, and then to get the audience riled up, he would stand and kick it back.
Oh, yeah.
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 All right, next song, Rip It Up. I've seen this happen with a lot of people I know. As soon as payday comes, let's make it rain!
Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, but the way Little Richard puts it, it doesn't sound like he's going to blow all his money at once. It just sounds like, I'm going to go buy a ticket and go dancing, and I'll rip up the dance floor. And what makes him happy is not necessarily spending the money, it's just, again, ripping it up on the dance floor and cutting loose on the weekend. I miss going to parties. Anyway, and if Little Richard does spend too much money for some reason, he's not going to care because he had a good time, which I have conflicting feelings about, but listen to our Cyndi Lauper episode where we talk about money changes everything if you want to know my thoughts on that. I've already gone off about it once, so I'm not going to do it again.
Wow, I'm surprised you just concentrated on that because I remember reading somewhere about a rock critic being upset about the lyrics. Well, it's Saturday night and I just got paid. Fool about my money, don't try to save. How could Little Richard be so fiscally irresponsible?
Oh, come on. He's a rock and roller. They're not known for saving their money. And if they are, well, good for them,
I mean, I look at it as one of the the greatest. It's the weekend, let's have some fun songs ever. I mean, that's basically what it's about.
Yeah.
But then, come Monday morning, it's like you wake up and you want to, oh, God. What did I do?
Yeah,
am I going to have to get an advance on my pay from the boss and owe him money and I'm never going to get out of that financial hole? And what the hell was I thinking? What, it's Friday again? Yeah!
I did what?
It's Saturday again? Yeah!
It's Sunday? Ugh. I did what? I I slept with who? I sang what song at karaoke?
Yeah, but it's still a fun song.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like the arrangement though is one of the calmest compared to Long Tall Sally or Tutti Frutti.
Oh,
I mean, it's definitely it's definitely a fast arrangement, but it seems more.
Ones later, though.
Yeah, it seems more less chaotic, I suppose, is what I'm looking for.
I don't think this is the least chaotic song on the whole thing, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
All right, ready, Teddy. All right, I have thoughts. All right, but first, not Ready Freddy, Ready Teddy. It rhymes, but I prefer Ready Freddy because it's what I know, I guess. And then
Ready Freddy.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Oh, Crazy Little Thing Called Love.
Well, no, not just that, but like people say it. Okay, Ready Freddy. It's like an expression. At least when I was a kid, they did. I don't know.
Huh.
All right, and then as soon as I read the lyrics, I go, "Hey, wait a minute! Didn't Elvis sing this?"
Yes,
and
he
if
did.
he did, okay, that makes me angry because here's why. I've seen clips of Elvis singing this song on live TV thanks to YouTube, and boy, does it get me in a foul mood. Why? Because Little Richard deserved all that adulation, and he got screwed with his pants on due to a bunch of racist bigots who didn't want to see innocent little white girls losing their minds over a black man who kicked ass on the piano and have the most incredible hank of hair you ever laid eyes on. Makes Elvis's pompadour look like a joke. Ooh, I get so mad when I think about Little Richard not getting the accolades he deserved. I'm glad he's in the Hall of Fame, though, which is what he deserves. But yeah, I get so mad about him being overlooked. Him and Chuck Berry, but that's for when we cover Chuck Berry on our show. Now, to listen to this song, I have come to the conclusion that this song is all I need to get pumped. Not metal, this. As John Lennon said, don't give me that rock and roll bullshit. Give me Chuck Berry, or in this case, give me Little Richard. I just want to scream along with him and start dancing and lose control. I want to rip up that dance floor for 6 songs in a row. And the cherry on the sundae is the drummer's cymbals just underscoring that frantic feel-good energy. This is the song where you can really let her rip.
Yep. I mean, who's Teddy? Who knows? But it does
We don't
rhyme
care, yeah.
with Ready. And I always liked the line about the flat top cats and the dungaree dolls, which I never knew what he was saying until I went on that Purple Lyrics website, A to Z Lyrics or whatever it's called. I'm like, yeah, that's what he's saying. Let me go back and listen. Yeah, dungarees, which you and I now know today as jeans.
Yes.
Yeah.
No one says dungarees anymore.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, ready, ready, ready to rock and roll. And it's just so energetic and sometimes I just don't have the words for his stuff.
It's balls to the wall.
Thank you. Yes, it
You're
is.
welcome.
Yes, it is. But yeah, that was the thing. Like a lot of artists covered his songs, and it's a matter of, did he get paid enough for them?
Oh, I hope he did. All right, next song, Heebie-Jeebies. Not a phrase you... What?
You'll find out. You'll find out in a minute.
Oh, okay. Dad just banged his head on the desk. Okay, let's get my thoughts out of the way first. Not a phrase you hear uttered too much anymore. I think the last time I read those words was in a Calvin and Hobbes comic where he's confronting the monsters under his bed. Now, what caught me off at first is when you... about this song is... When you have the heebie-jeebies, I always associate it with something giving you the creeps. So when Little Richard said he had them, I thought he meant it like a literal curse. And in a way it is because he wants this woman bad.
Because he sings about like how his bad luck baby put the jinx on him.
Yeah, he is burning. And I can see him shaking, pounding her door with his fist like a maniac. Baby, open up! And the chorus is insanely catchy because even though it's fast-paced, you get the gist of the lyrics very quick. It kind of reminded me of the chorus of Jump and Jive and Wail with Louis Prima and Keely Smith because of the pacing and repetition. Yeah. But I love the song so much, and I can remember listening to it. I'm so glad I was able to hear it again. All right, why did you collapse your head on the table?
You'll find out in a minute. Okay, yeah, his baby put the jinx on him, hence the heebie-jeebies, which kind of sounds similar to Ants in the Pants.
Yeah,
I got ants in my pants, and I got to dance. Yeah, this song is just crazy. I mean, the playing and Little Richard singing is out of control, but it just all works. It just all comes together. If that makes sense. It just works. And yeah, I have to admit, when I hear this song, all I can think of is Patrick Kennedy because of his stupid comment ages ago about someone asked him about Fidel Castro, and he said, trying to do it in my best Leave It to Beaver voice. Yeah, that Castro, he like gives me the heebie-jeebies and junk.
Oh.
He didn't say and junk, but And I thought, yeah, this is the Kennedy that Rhode Island deserves.
Yeah.
And now supposedly he's ensconced somewhere in Brown University as some sort of teacher of politics or something. So kids, get your money back if you have him as a teacher.
If you want to be a poli-sci major, just go to Rick.
Yeah.
Get Professor Weiner, who's way better than Professor.
So I try and work on getting
distancing that out of your head.
Yes,
yeah.
and just concentrating on the song itself. But jeez Louise, I mean, you're a grown man, for God's sake. And, someone asks you about Castro, just say something like, well, I don't care for his politics, or we need to keep an eye on him. No, he gives me the heebie-jeebies and junk.
Did you know that the CIA tried to poison Castro's milkshake once?
Yeah, I heard that.
Because he loved dairy. Oh, God.
Anyway, yeah,
next
real mature.
Let's get your mind off Patrick
Yes,
Kennedy.
please.
All right, she's got it.
Yes.
All right, hold on. I love Little Richard in this song. All the guys don't want this girl because she's a square, a goody two-shoes. And Little Richard's opinion, goody two-shoes be damned, she's cute. And the added bonus is she sings, so maybe they could sing some duets or, spend their nights making their own little kids' choir.
For all of you out there who don't have the video portion of our podcast, my daughter just winked.
I made that reference because I was recently listening to the Bombshell concert where it's the Marilyn Monroe musical and they have a song for Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe called Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and one of the lyrics is, we'll spend our nights making our own Little League baseball team. It's cheesy, but it's hilarious. Anyway, and Little Richard isn't alone in thinking that this girl's cute, because other guys he knows think she's cute too. And I love that he can see the sexiness most guys can't. So it goes to show guys do like nice girls, and you don't have to change for them, like in Grease with Sandy. Yes.
Okay. She's got it all over, apparently. And to me, it's like this song comes at you like at 100 miles an hour. So do most of the other ones, come to think of it. But yeah, it's like... what do they say? The cats think she's square, but I think she's neat. And it's like, the nerdy girl wins in the end or something.
Take that, suckers.
Ooh. But yeah, it's just...
It's great.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, that's all I can say about this stuff.
I mean,
it's just, I'm not being very, music criticky with this stuff, because it's just like...
It's just good.
It's just like, you have to hear it.
Yeah.
And it's just so great. And words fail me.
Yeah.
Then why are we doing this podcast if words fail me?
Because he died and we wanted to do something nice.
No, I mean podcasts in general.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right, next one. Girl Can't Help It.
She cannot.
Hey, wait a minute. I've heard the chorus of Girl Can't Help It, or at least the backup singers used in quite a few rap songs and pop songs. Did Little Richard or any of his family get paid, or were they screwed by sampling?
That I don't know, but the song you're referring to is Fergie sampled this for her song Clumsy, which they played in Whole Foods.
Fergie, her national anthem cover was pretty bad. She was trying to seduce the American flag. All right, there are so many funny lyrics in this song, and Girl Can't Help It. And I like how she can make the bread turn to toast, steaks become well done, and make Grandpa feel like he's 21, that dirty old man. The only other one I've seen is... in terms of comparisons that or similar phrases, is when she walks by, all the candles get snuffed out. Like she walks by and the candles just go. At first I was worried about how the song was going to go, with it being about a sexy girl who the men slobber over. But when he says, "Won't you kindly be aware?" it's as if he's acknowledging that it can't be easy for her to have all the guys staring at her. It reminds me of Gina in Big Mouth when her breast developed and she was uncomfortable with all the guys ogling her, when she puts on her new shirt, and Nick and Andrew are in the back are going, boobs, boobs, boobs! So it makes Little Richard's message all the more sweet, like he's going to get the girl and take her away from all those prying eyes. Good for him.
Okay, this is from the movie of the same name, and you can find this scene on YouTube where Little Richard sings this song, and he's standing up at the piano, and he's got his right leg up
Dad,
on
don't
the
do
piano,
it.
and I'm not going to do it because I'm going to hurt myself and fall over in this high chair.
Yeah.
And it's quite a performance. Okay, this is from the movie of the same name starring Jane Mansfield, who probably could never help it. Allegedly.
Oh no.
This was written by Bobby Troup, who also wrote Route 66. And like I said, Fergie sampled this for her song Clumsy, which I kept hearing at work and wondering, who the heck is this? What the heck did they do? And when I was doing research just on this particular song, it came up, and then I found her video, played it, and realized, okay, this is it.
I hope she paid somebody.
Well, I'm sure Bobby Troop got his royalties. Or his family did, since he's currently dead. Yes, this girl has amazing powers. If she winks, the bread slice turns to toast. If she smiles, the beefsteak becomes well done. Like you said, makes Grandpa feel like 21. She can't help it. It's just this natural... what do I want to call it?
Innate sexiness?
I was just going to go with essence.
Okay.
Or je ne sais quoi.
Aura, yeah.
Yeah, aura, thank you. That's a perfect... Yeah, and like you said, about Little Richard saying, it ain't easy.
I can see some stupid people, like, they'll go up to this girl with a piece of bread and just be like, hey, do it, do it, do it. Just because they're stupid, they think she can literally do that. And she's like, what are you talking about?
Excuse me, I ask my steak medium well, please and thank you.
Oh, she'd be like, oh, piss off. All right, next one. All around the world. In 80 days? Kidding. All right.
In 45 revolutions per minute.
Yes.
All
right. This is more mellow than I was expecting, considering he's singing about the mass appeal of rock and roll. You'd think he'd be leaping for joy and screaming. I also can't tell if there being no time for romance ticks him off or not. Because I could tell Little Richard enjoys having fun, but it does seem like he's also the type of guy who'd be polite to your parents if you brought him over for dinner one night. Like, he'd know to, be nice and everything. However,
I could see that.
Yeah. However, why I find the song funny is that the lyrics must have confirmed the parents' worst fears, that rock and roll wasn't going anywhere at all. I could see them hearing this song and spluttering and smashing the record over their knee, or maybe a few more extreme ones taking a crowbar to the record player or jukebox machine. Unclean! But I don't think I like Little Richard being laid back. I want him ripping and roaring. Then again, the guy probably needed a break every now and then. I'm sure he got pretty tired, especially after a concert, just passed out in bed.
I mean, it's a nice song. It's not one of his greatest, but I have no complaints about it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And it's like, rock and roll is taking over the world. It's here to stay. And I mean, because I think at the time when it first came out, a lot of people were hoping and praying, this'll pass, Perry Como, come back, Perry. And I don't know. And it just didn't. I mean, you got this song, and you've got Chuck Berry's Roll Over Beethoven, which was like, hey, rock and roll's here, and you know what? If Beethoven was alive, he probably might like it too.
Yeah.
You never know.
You've got some people also, it's like, you saying that, Come Back Perry Como. It reminds you of, when Frank Sinatra was trying to appeal to the kids covering Simon & Garfunkel's Mrs. Robinson, or doing something by George Harrison, which he said was his favorite Lennon-McCartney song. And just one quick story is, apparently, I think this was when George was doing this concert in Tokyo, he performed something, and he added in the phrase Jack as a little tribute to Frank. Just for fun, just for shits and giggles.
Well, I know that when Elvis came back, was released from the army, they had a special on TV, and Frank was the host.
And Nancy Sinatra said, and I was just sitting there going,
so I think it had more to do with hey, this is staying, this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And like he says, you can hear the jukebox jumping all night and all day, and it's just everywhere.
But he's not jumping all night and all day in this song, though, and that's what throws me off.
I think it was probably because, my theory is, it's, in a way, it's like a message song, and I think maybe he wanted it to be having his voice heard more clearly than the usual cacophony behind him.
Oh, like early preaching?
Possibly.
Yeah, I could buy that. That could work. All right, Lucille. I think this is Little Richard's second most iconic song after Tutti-Frutti.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta give props to Lucille's friends. They keep their lips shut when where she was. Hold on. Rephrase that. Rewind. Oh my god. Okay.
This is live, folks.
Yes, they kept their lips shut as to where she was out of loyalty, and you have to respect friends like that. I just want to know what Little Richard did to make her run away. Because I don't know if he had a temper or not, but I don't think he'd ever hurt anyone. People, seems like he was a pretty nice dude.
Well, no, because, he talks about how she runs off and gets married.
Oh, okay. Throughout the song, I could see him getting on his knees, but also yelling, get back here! The one question I have, though, is what does Little Richard mean when he says she won't do her sister's will? That's the only part I don't get. I think I might know, but other than that, I like the story of the song.
Are we talking It Takes Three rather than It Takes Two?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Could be. We don't know what
close.
it is. It's.
I thought it meant like he started seeing her sister instead now that she was
It's
gone.
a
This is the
mystery.
closest thing.
Well, her sister wants her to do something. I don't know what it
know
is.
what.
But yeah, when he lets out that first Lucille, it's like, good God, you know? Yeah.
Goes high.
Hey, I think I broke my coisa.
Oh.
Yeah, so she won't do her sister's will, which could be anything. It's one of those great rock and roll mysteries. Think of it what you will, you perverts out there. You. Yeah, but she does run off and gets married, and Little Richard is still pleading for her to come back.
Yeah.
And I got to say, that sax solo is so dirty. I mean, just the way it just drags out, and you're like, oh. And I just cannot think of a better way to describe that.
Yeah.
And it's just such...
It's so good!
And the way that it starts off, though, you think, is this going to be an instrumental? Because that intro takes a while.
It does a little bit, yes.
And you're waiting, and then he just lets out that scream of Lucille's name.
You get like whiplash.
I'm awake. Okay,
I'm here.
Something's going to happen.
I'm here. Hi. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, next song, Send Me Some Lovin'. Okay, in my opinion, this is as close to a ballad or a slow dance song as Little Richard's going to get, but he still makes it work with his voice and his performance style. And this song also makes you really think about the advantages people have in long-distance relationships nowadays with FaceTime and texting. Back then, I'm sure phone calls were way more expensive, so you probably talked once in a blue moon on the phone and spent more of your time communicating through love letters. The pining must have been a lot stronger back then. I also love the little crescendo the sax has.
Yeah.
And this just shows Little Richard knew what he was doing, hiring musicians to play for him. I don't know if it was the same people every time, but if a band can slip from fast-paced rock songs to soulful ballads, then they're good musicians.
Yeah, I think it was the same because he did all his recording down in New Orleans, and I think it was just the house band.
New Orleans.
And yeah, it is the closest to.
I'm sorry, that's the first thing I think of when you say that.
Okay, yeah, it's the closest thing to a slow song on his collection. I mean, it's very simple lyrically and it's very straightforward musically. But I mean, he's Little Richard after all. He sells it, you know. And I can just imagine like the bands in the back there, like swaying, you know, back and forth, trying to get that.
with the horns. Yeah, you sometimes see that in marching bands.
Yeah, exactly. You've got this line of guys doing that, and yeah, it's a nice song, and it's just like, you know, let's give the kids a break out there. But I'm sure when he did this in concert, and as soon as he came out with "Send Me Some Lovin'," the girls in the audience just went nuts.
Screamed, yeah.
And supposedly, speaking of his concerts, he says these were the first concerts ever when girls threw their underwear on stage. Which I could believe it.
I could see that too,
I could definitely see that happening. My soul. But he said like the other thing was like he had the makeup and the tall hair and that, and he was saying that he was trying to present himself as being like a non-threatening performer.
Yeah, but people still didn't perceive him that way.
No one was buying that.
Which sucks. All right, but what was I going to say? I would like to also point out that unlike Tom Jones, Little Richard didn't have people who were paid to throw the underwear at him.
Oh, come on. Your grandmother did it for free. No, she didn't throw her underwear on stage, but she definitely lost it when they go see her at Work Musical, her and Grandpa.
Oh, you better hope Nana never listens to this.
I'm sure she never will.
Uncle Joey's gonna text you about this later. Oh my God. All right, next song, Jenny. Is it bad that
No, wait a minute. Wait, before you go, I think I've told you the story about how they would go to see Tom Jones at Work Musical Theater, and Nana would just like totally lose it, and Grandpa would just be sitting there thinking, this is the funniest thing ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, just watching, you know, this is my wife. This is hilarious.
Well, maybe also it's like, maybe he'd never seen that before in Portugal before. Because it's like, you got Fado over there, and Fado's just sad.
So you're
just sitting there crying, not sitting there going, ah! All right.
Anyway, Jenny. Is it
bad that my first thought reading this title was Forrest Gump? Because of the character Jenny?
Never saw the movie. Don't need to see the movie. Don't want that in my head.
It's a good movie. It's nice.
You know, that movie's been out for 25 years. I haven't seen it. My life is still okay.
Well, if you see it, your life will still be okay. It's a good movie.
Nah, I think, you know, just listening to Weird Al's He's Gump, He's got. I got the whole movie right there.
All right. So this is the first song where I noticed that Little Richard seemed to be out of breath. Like, I've seen those clips of him standing up, going nuts, sweat pouring down his face, but he made it seem like just another Monday. However, I think he sounds breathless on purpose here to show how overwhelmed with feeling he is for Jenny, although sometimes he makes her name sound like the word gin. Then again, it was balls to the wall. Then it was, oh, hold on. Blah. Then again, it says this song was written in 57, 2 years after Tutti-Frutti, so maybe he is a little tired after going balls to the wall for 2 years. And yet, there was something about this song that didn't really grab me. It did remind me of another song, though. I never met a wolf who didn't love to howl, because the Jenny, Jenny, oh, Jenny, Jenny has the same kind of structure as shimmy, shimmy, oh, gimme, gimme. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they got it from.
Jenny was probably first.
Yes, it was definitely first. I never met a wolf who didn't love to howl. Didn't come on until like 2011, 2012.
Is that Bombshell thing again?
Yes, again.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I've heard Little Richard sing 2 other songs with girls naming them so far, so the effects wore off after a while. But I'm sure all the girls named Jenny went nuts, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was a spike in naming baby girls Jenny after this, or any Little Richard song with was naming it.
You never know. But yeah, to me, this is his most out of control vocal. He's got like lots of woos going on, and it's like you can hear him running out of breath. It's like this song has like so many words in it. He's trying to get them all out.
Yeah, get them all out on time.
And yeah, exactly. And I think it's almost like a race between him and the band. Who's going to finish first?
It's like that guy in Another One Rides the Bus.
Yeah, and it's like the longer this song goes on, the more out of control his singing is. Mm-hmm. And it's great. And apparently Jenny is no ordinary lass.
No.
I mean, to get this kind of reaction, and I don't think he's so much as physically tired. Like you said, he's been doing this for 2 years.
Yeah.
This came out in 57. I think it's just... I don't know if it's a matter of them like doing so many takes and doing eeny, meeny, miny. Yeah, we'll take this one. Mm-hmm. This is as good as it's going to get. Mm. And, I said this before and I'll say it again. You listen to this song and it just has so many words.
Yes. To
try and get in on the time that they've set for this song to be performed. And it's just great. And to me, this is rock and roll that will never be topped. This is what it's all about. It's just so out of control, and you can dance to it. Mm-hmm. And it seems like the further you move away from the 50s, people kind of forgot that. Mm-hmm. I mean, every great once in a while, there'll be someone who comes out with like this one great song that kind of brings it back. But even they can't sustain it for like a whole album's worth.
Well, the times are changing. It's like, how you said that people were praying Perry Como would come back. It's like, we're never going to get the 50s rock and roll back now, unfortunately.
Oh, no, it's not. It's not getting the 50s style back. It's just getting that attitude. If that makes sense.
Elaborate a little bit? What do you mean by attitude? What attitude?
Of like, it should be loud, fast, and fun.
Oh, okay. Well, some bands do that.
And, if you can bring it under 3 minutes, even better.
Okay. All right, next song, Miss Anne. So the same songwriters for Jenny, Little Richard, and some guy whose first name I don't know because the album just said Johnson. For a last name.
Don't know.
So they wrote this song too, and for some reason when the two of them write a song, I don't buy it. Especially with this one, because I got the sense that Little Richard was kind of fed up with Miss Anne. Even though she calls his name so sweet, he's still fed up with how loud she is. Plus he's been deceived, which is driving him to grief, but at the same time he's not going to let her go, which sounds kind of toxic. And when I listen to Little Richard, I don't want to hear about a messy relationship. I want to rock and dance. Maybe if the song had some more frantic energy to capture the swings in their relationship, I'd find it a lot more believable.
Well, this could be about Ann Johnson.
Oh.
A white woman who mothered Little Richard when he was a teen. Oh. Mothered, take that word as
like took care of him, like
or took care of him.
Oh, okay.
Don't know. I really don't know, but make of that what you will. Mm-hmm. And upon further research into Wikipedia, Miss Anne is also a term about a white or even a black woman who is arrogant and condescending in her attitude.
Uh-oh.
Wikipedia knows all.
Oh, hail Wikipedia.
But again, it's kind of like another slow song. Mm-hmm. Well, slow for Little Richard anyway. Because you need, you need that break, especially after Jenny.
I would say the slowest one on here is Send Me Some Lovin'.
Yeah.
Over this one. All right.
But I just like, he's just so formal about it. It's not like Annie, it's Miss Anne. Mm-hmm. Like he has some sort of respect for her, I guess.
Or maybe it's like Ron Swanson in a Tammy One situation. where she's so intimidating that it kind of freaks him out a little bit.
So are you saying that Miss Ann might have been Little Richard's teacher in school? And then after school?
No, but just as, like, she's so intimidating that it kind of scares her, so, like, maybe she condescends to him when he calls her Annie. She's like, that's Miss Ann, if you please.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can buy that.
That's my theory. All right, next song, Keep a Knockin'. Holy shit, those drums sound good at the beginning. This is the first song where Little Richard sounds legitimately pissed, but he's also happy at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he's happy that he's the one with the power in this situation because she's knocking at his door and he's making the choice to keep her out. He's playing this girl's emotions like a fiddle. And maybe it's because I just recently rewatched I, Claudius, but I just picture this girl at the door like La Villa or Julia, just pounding.
Oh, no.
Yes, pounding on the door with the palms of their hands or even kicking the wood, just screaming through the tears, totally losing their shit. And that image is hilarious. If you think about Little Richard's just standing on the other side of the door, partying like Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire in that one scene where it's like, just take those old records off.
No, that's from Risky Business.
Oh, Risky Business. Sorry, that one scene of Risky Business. So I find this song hilarious in a sadistic way, like, ha-ha, he's not letting you in, bye-bye. And I'm pretty sure he feels that way, too. Yeah, I just, like, pictured Lavilla when she's on the ground, like, kicking the door, like, Mother, let me out!
I always thought it was interesting that, like, how did La Villa die? I locked her in a room. I'm thinking...
She probably bludgeoned herself to death on the door. That's my theory.
Well, yeah, either that or... That must have taken a long time, though, because...
Or maybe she eventually realized she wasn't gonna be allowed out, so she's like, what's the point?
Oh, took her own life?
Yeah.
There wasn't a window in the room, I guess?
Bang her head enough against the wall.
Yeah, I guess they had thick walls back then. Anyway, yeah, it's interesting that you talk about... What was it at the beginning about the drums?
Oh, holy shit, they sound good.
Yeah, and holy shit, Led Zeppelin stole that opening drum pattern for their song Rock and Roll.
Oh, god damn it.
Yeah, because I have to say, sometimes kids, I learn my rock and roll history in reverse. The first time I heard Keep a Knockin', I thought, wait a minute, I know this from... Oh. Okay. Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is like another hurricane of a song. It's out of control vocals and insane playing. And to me, it's amazing that this stuff got played on the radio back then. I'm assuming this got played on the radio back then. I don't know.
He doesn't
but
say
yeah,
anything
it's just
overtly dirty, so maybe that's why.
Oh no! It's like you know, keep a knocking, but you can't come in. You know, you said you love me, and obviously you didn't.
Yeah.
But he's just like so loud and so like in
Angry.
your face
about
the whole thing. I mean, you can't blame the guy.
But you get affected by it. Like, you're happy that he's angry. Like, good for you. Don't let her in.
And you can dance to it. So there you go.
And Keep a Knockin' works better than, like, ringing the doorbell. That wouldn't have worked.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, next song. Good Golly, Miss Molly. Fun fact, according to the back of this album, this is the only song with a woman's name in the title that Little Richard didn't have a hand in writing.
Okay.
So, Little Richard sure likes wild women, with the exception of the girl in the song She's Got It. And since he's going to marry her, good golly, Miss Molly, something tells me it'll be an adventurous marriage for sure. And I find it interesting how there are only two women on this album he addresses as Miss, Anne and Molly. Maybe it's because it shows him getting older and courting young women instead of teenage girls. There were also two lyrics that went completely over my head. The House of Blue Light, but I think I know what that means. And
that would have been the House of Red Light.
Yes,
Girl.
I was about to say, it reminded me of Red Light and Roxanne, so I'm like, okay, I can give it.
No, go ahead.
And also, I think I know what it means to watch for Daddy's Mama, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, what is it about the Blue Light, the House of Blue Light?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I guess some sort of club. I mean, Chuck Berry does a song called The House of Blue Lights. It's just something that appears in rock and roll history. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good guy, Miss Molly. She sure likes to ball. And how in hell did that get past the censors? It's a euphemism for hugging and kissing.
Oh, okay.
Intensely.
Okay. I didn't.
And then the line about when she hugged me and kissed me, make me tingle-ling-a-ling, like woohoo!
It kind of reminded me of Chuck Berry's, like, I don't know, but hearing tingling, I was like, oh, like Chuck Berry's ding-a-ling?
Well, I think he's feeling tingling in his ding-a-ling. Yes. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, And it's the same thing. Like he sets up, like the band sets up this intro, and Little Richard just comes blazing in, screaming "Good golly, Miss Molly" at the top of his lungs, and it's just out and out greatness.
All right, next song. Ooh, my soul. I can't speak it like he does, so I'm not even going to try. But that little spoken, ooh, my soul,
Oh yeah,
is perfect. And he says it pretty much the same way each time over and over, and that little giggle at the end just makes it.
yes,
Mwah.
yep.
That's all I really have to say about this song. But I figured if Little Richard was in love with you, I don't think I'd really have any trouble believing it, considering his infectious enthusiasm for women in music. So, honey, if he loves you, he loves you.
Yep. And this is like another runaway train of a song. I mean, to me, it's like these, a lot of these songs almost like forces of nature. Like it's like a hurricane or a tornado. I mean, it just comes
At
in.
you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. It just comes at you. And so this train's coming down the track and it's going to run you over. And I like, he just goes crazy with that, honey, 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 get up off of that money. Like, get up off of that money. Does he mean her moneymaker? Oh.
Maybe, probably.
Could be.
Yeah.
Unless either that or she's really sitting on a pile of money, which I doubt. But yeah, I love how the song ends when he does that, ooh, my soul, and he has that little throat sound upon which Prince would build a whole career.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
basically.
go.
But yeah, I mean, taking it back to what you said about that, the way he says, ooh, my soul, it's perfect because you'd expect him to scream it, but it's just, he doesn't do that. He gives you
He teases you, yeah.
He gives you the opposite, and he's got that little thing going on in his throat at the end, like you said, that little,
Yeah.
it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, cherry on top. All right, next song. Kansas City or Hey Hey Hey. Interesting that we have a song with two titles here, but it makes sense.
Well, it's a
I wasn't
medley.
expecting it, yes. The thing about this song is that I get Little Richard wants to meet some girls, but he's telling this to the girl he's currently with. That's a choice. And then the next half of the song is him realizing he's made a mistake, but hey, turn late to turn back now, so yeah, have fun in Kansas City tonight. This is the one time where I'm tempted to say, well, maybe if you didn't tell her you were going to meet other women, then she wouldn't have left, but honestly, he's not going to listen to me or anyone on this. And he's very cavalier about it, like he's going to miss her, but he already made a commitment to go on this trip, so he's going to try to enjoy himself and have fun anyway. I've heard similar stories about this where, like, a couple was all set to go on vacation, and they broke up beforehand, so one of them had to go alone. I think Little Richard's going to be okay, though.
Wow, you read a lot into this. Me, I've always thought it was like, hey, it's a great medley. It's these two songs. They probably sound great together. I'm just going to hitch them together. I'm going to sing the first one, and I'm going to sing the second one.
But it works in terms of telling a story, though.
I never looked at it that way before. I mean,
Yeah.
for Kansas City. I mean, I've got the original version by Wilbert Harrison, and he's just like, yeah, I'm going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come. They got some crazy little women there, and I'm gonna get me one. And might take a train, might
But
take a
Little
plane.
Richard says, I'm going to get me some.
Yeah.
Not one. Some.
Apparently, he needs more than Wilbur Harrison ever did.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Beatles covered this with who else on lead vocals but Paul?
Oh, was that on the Help album or on Beatles for Sale? Or...
Oh, I think it might have been. Help.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that on Help.
Yeah, and he does his usual decent job of doing Little
impersonation,
Richard.
yeah.
And eventually they would do their own Little Richard tribute / ripoff called I'm Down, which they wrote themselves, but Little Richard, he could have gotten songwriting credit for that song.
Did he ever sing it?
Who, Little Richard?
Yeah.
I don't know, but he probably could have. I like to think he did.
Okay.
But yeah, that's interesting, that story that you strung together out of this. I've never
Well, it makes sense
thought
to
of that.
me.
Never could have been bothered, I suppose, or the song just never hit me that way. It's just like it's two great songs in one.
Well, that's why we have this show. New perspectives.
And the funny thing is, it's like I've never heard the original Hey Hey Hey. I don't know who did that originally. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But it works.
All right, last song. Bama-lama Bamaloo. I appreciate the effort Little Richard put into making Lucinda and Pretender rhyme. Lucinda and Pretender.
Yeah.
Everything about this song feels like part 2 of Tutti-Frutti.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Only this time the nonsense word is something Lucinda is actually saying. And what I noticed on the album is there was a 5-year gap between this and Kansas City. And it makes me slightly sad because this song was written in 1964, the same year the Beatles came to the United States and basically killed solo acts. So you can hear Little Richard kind of going, I'll show them. And there's even a prominent electric guitar for a few seconds, which we haven't heard so far.
Right.
So the song just makes me really sad and nervous because I know how screwed Little Richard got, only getting an honorary Grammy. And I just want to hug him like, I still love you. You're going to be okay. And while the sequel to Tutti Frutti isn't better than the original, I think you could put the two together and it would work.
Well, I know, like you said, there was a 5-year gap, and I think the reason was like I said, in '57 he left the rock and roll life to become a preacher. Specialty still had enough stuff in their vaults to keep releasing stuff, and I think maybe '59 they just that was the last of it. Who knows? But yeah, I mean now it's 1964, and the British have invaded, and it's so funny because like a lot of those bands acknowledged if it wasn't for like guys like Little Richard or Chuck Berry, they never would have started their bands in the first place. And they covered these guys' music in their concerts and on albums to show respect, and it was like the originals just kind of paid the price for it because they were like
But
I mean at that point rock and roll was almost 10 years old, so it was like almost becoming this old thing, and then all of a sudden, hey, it's not being recycled, but it's being made new again by these people from England.
Yeah.
Who learned the lessons that we probably should have been learning if it wasn't for like censors. Well, I guess basically censors, and the way radio was like, oh, we still got to make this safe. We can't have this, rock and roll on 24/7.
You see that again with MTV in the 1980s not playing certain black artists on their channel.
Yeah.
But I'm at least glad that somebody acknowledged his music and paid tribute to him at a time when the American public weren't.
Yeah.
So I'm glad for that.
And I mean, you had I'm going to get to this song and my 2 cents about it, but you also had the Beatles being the obvious example. I mean, they worship the guy. I mean, they opened for him on tour. You've got, if you look in that booklet, there's a picture of Little Richard with the Beatles.
I've seen that picture. They were sharing on social
And
media. All of them are like...
They have oh my God, that's Little Richard. They just have these like the Andy Dwyer look.
Oh
on
my
face,
God,
especially like George and Paul.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, we can't believe we're here with our rock and roll hero.
Yeah.
And they absorbed his lessons, and they kind of unintentionally overtook him. If that makes sense.
Yeah, they said they didn't mean to, though. Like, I heard one of them say that in an interview. I don't know if it was John or Paul. It was like we eclipsed them, and... Oh, no, they said that about Elvis.
Yeah.
They said we made him seem kind of... not pointless, but
safe,
out of date.
Well, yeah, I mean,
they were like, but we didn't mean to do that. It just happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, and because in Elvis's case, it was like his manager wasn't gonna let him tour outside the U.S. because his immigration status was iffy. Where if he left the United States, he probably would not have been allowed back in. And also, he started cranking out those movies, and he was just made safe until he had his comeback in end of '68, beginning of '69.
Thank God that didn't happen to Little Richard. That would have been humiliating.
No one was going to tell him what to do. But yeah, it's from 1964. It's the only song in stereo on this whole collection, obviously.
Okay.
And yeah, it does have a guitar solo instead of a sax solo, which shows you how rock was evolving to like, oh yeah, the guitar is the main instrument now.
It feels weird for him, though.
It kind of does, yeah. And yeah, this is like a barely slowed down version of Tutti Frutti. I mean, the title could mean anything.
Yes.
And, given Little Richard's drag past the line, got a gal named Lucinda, we call her the Great Pretender.
Ah, correct. Yep.
That I was like, oh, this could mean something different from what I think it means. But yeah, it's just a great song, and you wish that this would have been like some great roaring comeback, but unfortunately, it was not. And for like him and for like Chuck, they just ended up hitting, the rock and roll circuit. And this leads me to The Garden Party by Rick Nelson, which he wrote in like 72 maybe, about how, he was on the rock and roll circuit, but he was also doing his new songs, which were greeted with a lot of indifference. And he had that line about, if memories were all I sang, I'd rather drive a truck.
Oh.
And but these guys, they had to make a living somehow.
Yeah.
And they knew that there was a certain, what's the word I'm struggling for?
Stopping point?
No, a certain population that was still going to be into their stuff, that didn't want to know the new stuff.
Yeah, they were like, in that book I read, when the Beatles have their fake reunion, they don't want to hear any of the Beatles' new stuff. They just want to hear "She Loves You," yeah, over and over, and the Beatles get pissed, like, what the hell is
and
this?
I mean, I guess it's probably a generational thing. It's like, music's always evolving, and every once in a while, it's like, okay, I really should listen to Pro FM to see what the kids are listening to these days, and I can't last too long because it's just these auto-tuned girly voices. And it's like,
you tried Billie Eilish, that didn't last long.
I gave her a shot, and I'm like, no, there's nothing really here grabbing me. And I think, is it me? Is it them? Maybe it's me, but I'm always out there trying. But then you get someone like, I borrowed Lizzo's album.
Oh, yeah.
And like, oh my God, this is so great.
My dad stands Lizzo, holy shit!
And I love her because it's like, I listened to the album and I thought, wait a minute, this album's already over? And I looked and it's like 40 minutes and you got like 10 or 12 songs. I'm like, oh my God, she totally gets it. She knows that it's like, say what you want to say, get in and out, keep it catchy. And I love her for that.
Have you seen her play flute on stage before?
Play food?
Flute.
Flute? She plays flute?
She's a flute player.
No way.
Oh, I'll send you videos after this. I'll show you some.
Yes, please do.
All right.
And so when someone catches me like that, I'm like, I'm still relevant in my listening. I'm still not old fart. I'm not as farty as I think I smell.
Now I'm picturing Lizzo and Little Richard doing something, like if they could have.
Oh, I could totally see that.
They would have blown the roof off the place.
I could totally see that. So anyway, then
Final
we had
thoughts.
18 songs. This is absolutely essential to hear and to own. And, call me an old fart, but to me, sometimes that first generation rock and roll has never been topped. I feel like John, who, his line was about, don't give me any of that,
rock and roll bullshit, yes.
Yeah, just give me Chuck Berry. And, to me, it's just never been topped. It just has that wildness, that urgency, and that brevity. It's like, you don't need to be like, it doesn't need to be like art rock. Some people do art rock well, some people don't. I don't need a 5-minute drum solo that's going to tell me about the labors of Hercules. I'm not interested.
All right.
Don't need to know. But yes, Little Richard, if this was a better world, he would have gotten a lot more respect, money, and acclaim than he got in this life. If you go on Wikipedia, they do have a list of awards that he's won. But to me, it always kind of seemed like, we kind of feel bad about how you weren't recognized in your time. So here, have this Lifetime Achievement Award. Thanks for still. Thanks for putting out music, and sorry we didn't recognize you when you should have. But ooh, look, a trophy.
Hey,
the only legit one would be
the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, because they knew,
deserved.
Because they knew, okay, this is the first year. Obviously, it's a no-brainer. He's going in. And then the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now has got to a point where, it's.
Just do Pat Benatar already, you cowards.
Well, no, it's senseless because it's more political.
Yeah.
There's still acts back in like the 60s and maybe in the 50s that should be in there that aren't, and I wish they'd go in chronological order, but...
they just recently did the Moody Blues, ELO, Joan Jett.
ELO?
ELO's in there, yeah.
Really?
Denny Harrison did the speech at the beginning.
Huh. It shows you how closely... how much attention I'm paying to them these days. Oh, good for them.
Yeah,
good for them.
Good for him and Jeff Lynne. All right, my final thoughts. Overall, Little Richard's awesome.
He is.
He's well known, but deserves to be better known. And I think he'd be touched at all the messages from fans that were posted online when he passed away. There was a whole lot
but he's thinking, you couldn't do this when I was alive!
Yeah, exactly.
Shut up!
I think I prefer his earlier stuff from 1955, 1956 to his later stuff, but hey, his later stuff is pretty darn good. The world is a bit less fun without Little Richard in it, but he definitely had fun before he left this earth. And so, I hope that whatever he did with his life, whether it be rocking and preaching, he was happy. So thanks for the music, Little Richard, and just know that we really do miss you down here. And I want to end with this story I found on Twitter from Ava DuVernay, who's the prestigious film director who did 13th, which is on Netflix, and also Selma. She said that when she was a college student and working as a waitress in Kat's Diner, Little Richard would come there every Sunday for brunch. And every Sunday for brunch, he'd tip her a crisp $100 bill.
Wow.
And she says that helped get her through college.
Very nice.
So thanks, man!
Wow, good for him. Did you need to do your usual spiel about where we're found?
Oh yeah, I'm going to do that right now.
You're welcome.
All right. As always, thanks for reminding me to plug. Thank you as always for listening to another episode of My Dad Listens to This. I really want this video to be listened to just as a tribute to Little Richard, so I'm going to talk about how you can share this video first to make it go everywhere. So, if you follow me on Facebook, I post the videos on Facebook. Please share the video there. If you follow me on Twitter, at Juliet Antonio, I post the episodes to Twitter, so please like and retweet. If you follow me on Instagram, at Juliet Antonio, the link to our YouTube channel is in my bio, so just please spread the word if you can. If you follow the My Dad Listens to This blog on Tumblr, please like the video and repost. And if you're friends with my dad and you want to get the episode through him, talk to him, and I'll have him send the episode to you, and then just email the episode to whoever you want from there. And if you like this video, please give it a like. And if you didn't like this video, are you really going to dislike a video about Little Richard? You don't have the guts. And if you have specific thoughts you want to let us know, please let us know in the comments. If you want to know what our next episode is going to be, hit the subscribe button or tap the bell if you want to be notified right away. As always, we are Kevin the Dad and Juliet the Daughter of My Dad Listens to This. Thank you for listening. And Dad, do you have anything you want to say?
Ooh, my soul. Okay, that was pretty bad. Sorry, everyone.
Well, I'll end it with this. A wop, bam, a loom, wop, bam, boom.